Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you came to ceramics?
Okay, so I came to England to work in the fashion industry, and that was in 1981 to work for Zandra Rhodes, and then for Stephen Jones, who is wonderful that he's here tonight. And I did that for about 8 years, but I just didn't see that it was going to be my future, and I thought, I'm not going to do that till I'm 65. I might as well jump off post office tower. And then Miles said to me, what would you have liked to have done if you weren't doing fashion? And I said, well, I always had this idea, even before when I was a youngster, that I wanted to be a restorer. It was just a notional idea. I had no idea what it really meant. And he said, well, go and look into it. And I found this amazing college in the south of England called Wesleyan College, but then realized that you had to specialize in a particular branch of restoration. And for woodwork, you needed a cabinet maker diploma. For metalwork, you needed a silversmithing diploma, and for bookbinding, you needed a paper conservation course, and for ceramics, you needed nothing. So I chose ceramics, and I didn't know what I'd chosen, but I realized as soon as I started doing it, that I found something that I really loved, that I was good at, and also I was just fascinated, being a lover of history, that the ceramics history is so fascinating, and it spans every culture. Every culture is identifiable by a ceramic, and when people go digging around thousands of year old site, the first thing they find is ceramic fragments, and all those ceramics help you to find out the story of those cultures. So they're very important. And then, having done that for 15 years, I sort of had a creative itch that I couldn't still, and I thought maybe I should paint, but I thought, well, whatever I do is like somebody else's. And then I always remember this saying when they say, when you write the book, write your first book about what you know. And I thought, well, let my art be the first thing of what I know is ceramic restoration. And it was a really good choice because people hadn't really done it before. I could transfer my skills as a restorer to the making of the things. I had material knowledge, and it took off straight away. So there.
Good story.
For those of you who know Bouke, his work is very unique and very personal. But I'm going to ask the question that no artist ever wants to answer and put Bouke on the spot and ask him who or what are your biggest influences, Bouke?
Well, I can give you a really short answer, and because I don't really think about what my influences are. It's everything that's around me. It's what's in the news, what happened in the past, and yeah, I apply it, and it can be something I see in a television program. So I don't really look at other artists for inspirations, although I think there are lots of inspirational artists, but I don't think I really look at the work to inspire me. I just inspired by life.
Yeah.
That's a good cop out.
Okay, next one, another slightly challenging question. So what, in your experience, are some of your most challenging pieces?
So, I think it's not the most challenging, but it's always one of probably the most fascinating pieces in my restoration career that I have experienced. When 10 years ago, on the 2nd of January, I got an email, and I was reading the email, and my mouth sort of went like, and I said, Miles, come over, you got to read it, you got to read this. And so what had happened, somebody's funerary urn somebody tried to steal it from a columbarium where they keep funeral urns in England. And it's amazing columbarium. Amy Winehouse is in there, and Anna Polona, and Mark Bolan from T-Rex, and they try.
Really an important person.
Yes. So, and the urn that the ashes were kept in was a 3,000 or 4,000 year old Magna Grecian urn, which was perfect. And somebody tried to pull it through a window and couldn't, and dropped it. and the urn was scattered on the floor, and the ashes. They swept up the ashes with a dustpan and brush, and what actually was really funny, because they then asked me to come and collect this box, and somebody had traveled from Japan to see the urn of this person, and they just grabbed the spare urn they had on the shelf and put it on the plinth. And so they just gave me this box, and it turned out this box, and the person that contacted me was his great-granddaughter, and the person's urn was Lucian Freud.
Oh.
No, Lucian Freud, Sigmund Freud, different generation. But it was his great-granddaughter, Lucian Freud's daughter, that contacted me. It was a Freud. And, and a Freudian slip. But it was something,
Yeah.
I know his theories and thoughts have sort of been caught up in time a bit and looking at different, but he was one of the most significant persons of the 20th century, and he invented a whole new discipline. And suddenly I have that in my hand. It's a beautiful urn that's more than 3,000 years old and that survived intact, and it is of such a significant person, and with still of his ashes attached to it. And so I undertook it over like 4 or 5 months process, but I had lots of friends coming to my studio just to touch the urn of Sigmund Freud. And then it was completed, and a year later to the date, they re-interned it and put his ashes back in. And another funny thing was that his ashes were in there loose, but his wife's ashes, Martha, I think it's Martha, isn't it? No, his wife? Martha Freud was in there as well, but she was in a Ziploc bag. So none of her ashes were lost. And there was a reinterment ceremony with all his descendants, with all his great-great-grandchildren, and because there were no grandchildren left, all his great-great and great-great-grandchildren. It was a really amazing ceremony, and I was the only fraud amongst the Freuds. So there. But it is amazing when you get things like that in your hands, and it's
Privilege. Yeah.
privilege.
Okay. Yeah, I think working as a conservator has enormous amounts of privileges and brings certain joys. Do you want to tell us about a special joyous moment?
That's another one of those questions where I think, joy is everywhere. You have to enjoy everything. But what gave me amazing...
Besides working with us.
Apart with that. But what gave me great joy was that beginning of this week, our little dog Sonny had a big eye operation last week. He was nearly blind, and one side eye was already lost. And they suggested we do a cataract, but on a 16-year-old dog, that is a heavy operation, and they have to not only anesthetize, but also paralyze the body so the eyeball doesn't move. And he seemed to have come through it in flying colors. And then our friend who looks after our dog, Marius, he sent me a text on Tuesday. He said he took him out for a walk, and he saw a butterfly, and he started running after the butterfly.
Oh, that's
and
good.
Nothing could have given me more joy.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's joy.
Yeah.
Last but not least at all, this exhibition contains amazing loans from across Europe and the other side of the pond as well. There's very special collectors who we're very grateful to the galleries for facilitating this. But I think there are some works that are not present. Do you want to tell us about some of your more interesting or surprising collectors?
Well, so the most funny one was that several years ago I got an email, a message on Instagram, and I was sort of like in the morning, it was a bit of scrolling, what's going on, there's a message.
It's scrolling.
This scrolling is, no, not that scrolling, information scrolling. And so I look at this message, and the message read, hello, I'm filming in Budapest with Kate Blanchett, and we're obsessed about your work. Where can I buy one? Love, Jamie Lee Curtis. And I said, hey, have you got anybody who sells in LA? And they said, no, I don't have a gallery, but I have a gallery in Holland. I've got an agent in Italy. And she bought one.
In London.
And London. But between the Italian and the Dutch gallery, we sold her a piece, and she was delighted. And she doesn't collect ceramics at all, but she saw it on Instagram. She was just moved by the fact, the story it was telling in a memory festival with the fragments inside it. And we then, every now and again, exchanged messages. And when she was getting an Oscar, the year that she was getting an Oscar, one of the ceremonies she couldn't go to because she was having COVID. And so we were messaging, and she said, "Oh, by the way, if you're ever in LA, come and see me, give me a call." And then you think, yeah, they say that. And then I was going to San Francisco, and I was going to LA for a night, and I thought, I wrote an email which sat in my outbox for like 2 weeks, shall I, shan't I? And then I thought, she can only say no, so I sent it, and she said, "Oh, come Monday morning, you're there, come at 12 o'clock, and I'll make you some lunch." So I arrived there 5 minutes to 12 because I'm very punctual, and the door to our house is quite away from the gate. And as I got out of the taxi, she opened the door. I knew you would be on time. And then she made me lunch, and she was the most charming, kind person. And you know, it takes all sorts, and it was just a lovely experience. And it's all thanks to the art that I get to experience these things, as I get to experience this.
Yes.
Drop everything there, Linda. So can I sit down now?
Anne-Marie, over to you. And thank you so much, Bouke. So much better than a curator's talk.
Nou, we zijn tegelijkertijd ook alweer dol op de verhalen van conservatoren. En daarom wil ik graag Femke Diers hier naar voren halen. Jij bent conservator, Europese keramiek. Hij begint te piepen. Europese keramiek bij het Rijksmuseum. En tevens hoofd van de afdeling toegepaste kunst. En je bent onze speciale gast van vanavond, dus kom naar voren. En dan graag uw applaus.